You're watching State of Play. It's also primary day in Minnesota, and we are watching the moderate versus progressive showdown playing out in that race for the Democratic Senate nomination. That's where the centrist Congresswoman Angie Craig is facing off against the more left-leaning Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan in a contest that has become really one of the most expensive Senate primaries in the state's history. And joining me now is Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is running for re-election. Mr. Attorney General, it's nice to see you. Green grass behind you in the beautiful state of Minnesota. I know you're doing some door knocking right now. I appreciate you making time to talk to us right here. We know you're knocking for Peggy Flanagan right now. Are you still confident in her to win this primary?
Yes, I am. But let me be clear. Angie Craig and Peggy Flanagan, my preferred candidate, both are better in every way to the opponent that one of them will be facing in November. We really are about Democratic unity, but I think Peggy has just been such an excellent fighter for working class Minnesotans, fighting to help people afford their lives. So she's my candidate, but Angie would be too if it turns out the other way.
So let me ask you if I can for a second. The state of Minnesota has just seen so many headlines, too often for the wrong reasons here. President Trump's immigration crackdown, the ICE killings of 2 American citizens, federal fraud accusations, the killing, of course, of George Floyd, and all of the protests that followed that. How has this affected the sentiment, the views of voters in your state?
Well, Minnesotans really want to be able to afford their lives just like Americans all over the country. We've seen gas prices up. We've seen food prices up. We've seen housing prices up. There's a lot of people who grew up in neighborhoods that they could not afford to buy a home in as an adult. That's reality for us here. These other issues that you mentioned, don't forget the tragic murder of Melissa Hortman, a dear friend of mine, and Peggy Flanagan's, and many of us. We've been through a lot, and Operation Metro Surge was part of that. We view it as punishment from the federal government, from the Trump White House, because we stand up for progressive values. We believe that everybody counts and everybody matters in Minnesota. That's a statewide theme. Minnesota Nice is not just a slogan, it's reality. And so we've been through a lot. And I think a lot of people are looking at this election as a way to turn the tide, to say no to Trumpism, to say yes to liberty and justice for all, and to say we embrace our neighbors, whether they were born here or not, whether they're, no matter who they love, or no matter what they look like, which is a sharp contrast to what the Trump message has been. So I'm looking forward to a big turnout today. A lot of people have already voted. We're hearing that there's already been record turnout.
Right. If I can, then, Mr. Attorney General, the Democrats, their number one priority, as you note, of course, is winning this fall. But there's a conversation happening among Democrats. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this conversation right now who have these real concerns about the sort of divide they're experiencing within the party between the more progressive candidates and the more moderate, more centrist candidates right now. The fear is that
Sure.
ultimately may cost the party some seats, some governor's mansions. You saw that Abdul Al-Sayed, someone that you have supported, obviously won in what was a really close race against a more moderate Senate candidate in the state of Michigan. Right now in Wisconsin, Francesca Hong is facing some similar concerns that some of her past positions saying that she would like to abolish the police. She's backed away from that. Her saying that she didn't care for Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, some of these other sort of more zany comments could harm her as well. What do you make of that concern, and how do you satisfy those more centrist Democrats and independent-minded folks in states like your own right now who are having that real debate within their own head?
I think the debate is great. I think it's an important debate to have. Big D Democrats are being democratic, small d, meaning that we're debating ideas. What's the best way forward to make sure that Americans can afford their lives and live with dignity, safety, and respect? That is the discussion we should be having. And so I don't see it as a bad thing. I believe, just like in Michigan, you notice Abdul Al-Sayed and Haley Stevens came together right after the election. We're going to do the same here in Minnesota. And I'm going to tell you that it is not a bad thing for us to discuss ideas. How do we get more health care to more people? How do we lower prices? How do we stand up for everyone's rights? That's a good debate. That's not a bad debate.
I agree with you. I think the Democrats, any debate is healthy as it relates to that, certainly among the Democrats. I think the fear is that you're going to need to win not just Democrats to win in a general, and that's the concern, is that it may not be able to. Some of these further left candidates may not bring across the line some of those voters who could go either way. You recognize that, and how do you overcome that?
I totally recognize that. But what I think we've got to do is to say, look, what really matters, what unites us as Democrats, whether you are, from the center to the more to the left, what pulls us together? And that is the idea that America should be the land of opportunity. It should be a land where meaningful prosperity is within the reach of everyone. That is something that pulls us together. We also care about civil rights, human rights, and we also don't demonize people just because they're not from the mainstream. So that's what pulls us together, and that's what we've got to emphasize. On the other hand, our Republican friends, what do they got? They can't talk about prices. They can't talk about keeping us out of bad wars. They can't talk about much of anything other than hate your neighbor, fear the DEI, the trans person, the immigrant.
Correct.
That's all they got. And so because I think our hand is better, I'd rather go to an independent voter and say, how can we figure out how to help keep your farm?
Yeah.
How can we help you? How can we help your business do better? Reach
Mr.
more
Attorney
markets?
General.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just have so many a lot of questions. I know you got doors to knock, so I'm trying to be fast with you really quickly. You brought up civil rights.
Problem.
I want to ask you about the DOJ's.
You got me talking about my passionate subject. So,
as you should. I'm grateful. We share a passion for democracy here. The Justice Department Civil Rights Division, as you know well, the White House has teams from that department. They're monitoring polling locations across your state today. When this was initially announced, other lawmakers, yourself included, questioned the administration's motives here. Did you get any answers to that? And what concerns do you have? Have you seen any impact on voter turnout? Are you satisfied with the way it's playing out?
Well, let me say, we're on alert. We're watching carefully. We have a program to monitor the monitors. But we've talked to our friends who've gone through this in other states, and they've reported to us that it's been okay in other states. So we're mindful, we're vigilant, but we're not alarmed. But we're keeping a watchful eye. So that's what I can tell you. I'll say this. Minnesota has the highest voter turnout in the country year after year after year. We have a very engaged electorate and civic culture here. We don't need the federal government to tell us how to do elections. We kind of could teach them. But the fact of the matter is, if they want to come in here and monitor, fine. We'll monitor as they monitor, and hopefully it'll be all to the good.
Monitoring the monitors. Attorney General Keith Ellison, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you making time.